All right. Welcome, everyone. You all have been doing so well. I know it's been a struggle trying to go ahead and get through this class, but we're going to get through it together. As you guys all can see, I now have my Kickstarter web camera, and I'm really excited to get started. Y'all can actually see me. I know there's a little bit of glare on my glasses, but we'll get through this, and we'll make this working. Okay. So just a reminder that if you have not completed your midterm exam, remember it is opened up from the 6th to the 16th. So if you have not done it, make sure you get it done as soon as possible. It's 100 points. So make sure you get that complete. Open book, open note. You do what you got to do to go ahead and get the grade that you deserve, okay? All right. So this week is going to be this module is going to be a little bit different. We're talking about Module 7, okay? Module 7 is going to take us 2 weeks to go ahead and actually do. And there's going to be 2 separate videos. I'm going to go ahead and actually put one of them in today. I'm going to put one of them in right now, and the other one I'm going to go ahead and actually save separately. So this one's going to be going over the PowerPoint, okay? So we'll be talking about the PowerPoint and exactly about cron tabs and everything else. And I'll go through some of the scripting stuff. The next part we're going to do is going to be I'm going to have a separate piece talking about scripting language, and it's going to be all about how to script. There will be a lab for this one, and there's a reason why this is 2 weeks. You will need, and I can't stress this enough, you will need to do the lab to be able to be successful in the actual script, okay? You will have to do the lab. That is just, there is no way I can tell you otherwise. Scripting is another form of programming. A lot of y'all may not have some type of actual programming experience, but that's okay. My job is to make sure I walk you through it. And again, you're not supposed to go ahead and literally get it right away. You're not going to get it right away, but I'm going to go ahead and actually talk about the beginning of programming. If you haven't taken a programming class, such as talk about pseudocode, understanding what pseudocode means and what the purpose of it is. And then from there, I'm going to go into a little more detail on how we can start constructing a script in Bash. And we'll talk about that. And then that way, I will talk about the actual project. But the cool thing about scripting and programming is that you really have, unless you have like more specifics and everything, you have really free reign on how you want to present it. As long as your program works, that's all I'm looking at. So let's go look and see what we're doing this week. Okay, like I said before, learning objectives, we talked about how to set up cron tab tables, configuring commands to execute using the AT command. We're looking at secure cron tab and its services as Linux systems. We're also going to be looking at how we can describe the key features of Perl, Python, and Bash. And then you're going to look at how to create Bash scripts to detect network devices in the lab, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about what we're expected to do. Okay, so you guys have a quiz. All of y'all have a quiz to complete over chapters 14 and 15. Okay, make sure you get that done. It's 10 points. And then this will be, I will have 2 separate actual lectures. There'll be the one for the PowerPoint and the one talking about scripting specifically. Okay, let's talk about the first part of this actual 2-week module. The first part is going to be Introduction to Bash Scripting. In this actual module, excuse me, it's 9 points, 9 questions. What you're going to do is I've given you 9 different, very simplistic scripts, okay? Your job is to go ahead and go through them and tell me what they do, okay? Tell me what they do. I'm not asking you to go ahead and correct the script. I'm not asking you to go ahead and make the script better. All I'm saying is that here's a script. Tell me what it does based off of what you know about scripting. There may be an if statement. There may be a variable, like there's an if statement here. You have to understand how if statements work. Here's a for statement. How does a for loop work? If we set a variable, how does variables work? How does a while loop work? Okay. How does reading work? And I'll talk about this in my lecture, but just know that this is going to be explained in the book and everything too. but this is actually going to be just giving you some basic understanding of how to actually interpret bash scripts. Then we're going to talk about the project. The project is going to be, you are going to be using Vim or Emacs or Nano, whichever we like to do. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and use a text editor to create a script that will attempt to ping all devices on your network and create a list of located devices, okay? So we will talk about this a little bit more in depth when we talk about pseudocode. But I want, the way it's going to be judged is that the program has to run. So it has to run, what does that mean? Well, remember, to run, what do I have? You have to kind of remember what you have to do. So on your computer, in your instance, make sure that you have it to where I can run the script. Okay, that's number one. Everyone's going to upload your script in the space in the actual assignment, but I'm going to also be going into your instance and have it in running the script. Please make sure it's runnable. If it's not runnable, you lose 5 points automatically. Either it runs or it doesn't, okay? Next, the program pings computers in a specific subnet, okay? You know what a subnet is? We're going to talk about this a little more, how you can do this, how you can go about this. And then the program was turned in on time. So you turn it on time, it's 5 points. You turn it in late, it's 3 points. You're having 2 weeks to work on this, so it should be enough time to get this done, okay? It is going to take a little bit. I'm not looking for the most extravagant program in the world. All I want is a program that does exactly what I'm asking you to do, to ping all devices on your network and create a list of located devices, okay? That's what I'm looking for. So for that to work, you kind of have to understand a couple different things. You have to understand, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the scripting part. We'll talk about the assignment a little bit more. But this for right now, this is actually what you're going to be expected to do. 2 weeks, all right? 2 weeks. All right, let's get started on the actual PowerPoint. Cool. All right, let's get started. So we're going to talk about cron tabs today. Cron tabs are basically, in Windows, we have the Windows scheduler, okay, the scheduler. And then we can actually go and schedule events and things to pop off at a certain scheduled time. Cron tab is that same instance in the Linux world. So, excuse me. Okay, so the cron tab file allows users to schedule a command to run on a regular basis, such as once an hour or twice a month. And basically, we can go ahead and use the cron tab command to allow a user to view or modify their cron tab file. So let's go ahead and do cron tab tac help. So we've been using that for a while. So here's what the cron tab help gives us. Okay, so let's do man cron tab. It gave us a little bit of error. All right, cron tab maintains the cron tab file for individual users. So you can actually, every user can have their own individual cron tab. So which is what makes it really good, everything, because if you have a backup administrator, they're managing the backup, so they should actually have things popping off on the backup. If you have a person that deals with updates, then you're going to have someone that deals with updates. And you're going to have a cron tab for that specific person too. So, again, it's a program used to install a cron tab table file. Here are some of the flags or the options that you should be aware of. Tac E is to edit. Tac L is to list. So we can do a cron tab tac L. No cron tab for students. I don't even have one. So we have remove all entries in the cron tab file, so tac R. And then we also have tac U, excuse me, to define a specific user. Okay, so the cron tab table. Each line of the table is broken into fields separated by one or more space characters, okay? So the first field is the minutes, to be the minutes. The second field is going to be the hours, then the days of the month, and then the month itself, okay? So let's go ahead and let's see if we go tab, tag E. Okay, so we have a temporary one. All right. So we'll have to go ahead and wait and see if we can make one. And then we have the 56 field. We actually add both the week and the name of the command to execute. So they're each going to be separated by spaces too. Okay, and we'll see that a little bit more. They're broken into one or more spaces, characters. A list of values can be used for each numeric. This would be 1, 3, or no 3, no spaces. And then examples of values can be specified for each numerical value, which will be 1 to 7 with no spaces. So creating a cron tab entry. Run cron tab with tac key option to enter an editor. So we're going to do that. We'll do cron tab, tac key. So we're in VI. So if we want to go ahead and save this, we have to do a colon. We have to make sure we're in command mode. So we have to make sure we hit the escape key, colon, WQ. Okay. So let's go ahead and see if we can go ahead and get things together. So again, display the current user's cron tab. This is where we're editing it right here. I'm going to go ahead and exit this right now. And if I did the list, control tac L, and we'll do a tac U student. Must be privileged to use tac U. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, gotta do my student privileges. So, no cron tab for tac U. If I want to do that specifically for now, why is it that I can do a cron tab, tac L, but when I use the tac U, it requires me to have privileges? Think about that for just 1 second. Well, let's think about this for another way. One of the reasons why is because I provided it with the user student. There's another user on here, right? If you remember back a while back to probably mod 4 or actually mod 3, we created a user. His name was Timmy. So let's go ahead and do a tac L, tac U, Timmy. I can't because that's Timmy's cron tab. And unless I'm Timmy, I can't see what Timmy can do. I have to be privileged to do that, okay? So if I want to remove the entire cron tab, I can do the tac R option. So I do cron tab, tac R. So you can use configuration files to determine if a user can use the cron tab commands. We can do change directory /etc/Etsy. And let's do a vim cron dot deny. All right, nothing in there. Do allow. And nothing in there either. So each of these files, what these purposes of these files though are to list of users that are either allowed or denied to use the cron tab command. So let's say, for example, let's say I want Timmy not to be able to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the cron.deny. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and actually put Timmy. So let's do this. Let's see if we can actually use it with Timmy. Okay. Look at that. Timmy, you are not allowed to use this program. So when I edit the deny, and I put Timmy in there, it basically said, hey, Timmy, you can't do this, bro. It's all right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and exit this. I'm going to go ahead and now go back into, remember I have to be permission to do that. And we're going to go ahead and delete Timmy. And let's go back into Timmy again. And let's do the same thing. And now I can do it because we removed him from the deny. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay. So here are some rules for the application of the cron deny and cron allow. So all users listed in this file are denied access to the cron tab, while other users can execute cron tab successfully. Okay, we know that already. Only the etc cron allow file exists. So if only this exists, the execute deny, then basically the way it's going to read it and interpret it is that as long as they're listed in the file, they're going to be access denied. Okay. while anybody else can execute cron tab. So let's say, for example, we didn't have a cron.allow. Let's say it was just cron.deny. Then the way it interprets is that as long as that cron.deny, as long as you're not in the cron.deny file, then you're Gucci. If you're in the cron.allow file only, then only those, all users cannot execute the cron tab. So let's do this. Let's actually, I'm going to go ahead and remove, I'm going to copy cron.deny to here. Actually, let me do this. Let me exit. Now I'm going to copy cron.deny to my home folder. So that way I have a copy. I'm going to remove cron.deny. Oh, can't remove it. So we're going to remove it. We're going to see if I can list it. Cron dot. So there you see it. I have cron.d, hourly, rate check, log rotate, and a cron. So no cron, deny. I have cron.allow though. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and put I'm going to go ahead and put my name in here, okay? So I have deleted cron.deny, okay? I have removed it from the Etsy directory. All I have is cron.allow. So I'm going to go ahead and do an ls for cron.allow, and it's there. What if I do for deny? No such file. Oh, directory, it's gone. I deleted it, right? All right, so let's go ahead and go into Timmy again. Now, if the cron.allow file exists only, all users listed in this file are allowed to access cron tab. How other users cannot execute the cron tab successfully. Use this file, we want to allow access to a few users, but not access to most users. Okay, so Timmy is not in the cron.allow file. Only student is. So technically, if I'm following this, then that means that if I do cron tab tag L, Timmy should not be able to do it. Again, same thing. Timmy's not on that file. So let's go ahead and exit. Now what happens if we go ahead, I'm going to copy the cron.deny from mine to /Etsy. Now I'm going to ls for cron.deny. Okay, it's there. So we have cron.d, cron.deny, cron.allow. Okay, we're good there. We're Gucci on that end. All right, so let's go look at it. So now let's go into Timmy again. And let's do cron tab tag L. No, I'm still not in there. So why is that the case? Well, now both of them exist. And if both files exist, then basically only the allow file is consulted. And the deny file is basically ignored. So let's go ahead and actually, so to get Timmy the possibility of doing that, then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go ahead and sudo VM cron tab cron.allow, and I'm going to delete this one. Let's see if we can get Timmy access to it. Again, he's not in the allow, so I don't have the opportunity to do that, okay? So because he's not in the allow, I can't do that at all, right? So this is just how the cron tab works, everything how cron deny works. The system cron tab or Etsy cron tab acts as a system cron tab. The system administrator edits this file to enable executing system critical processes at specific intervals. This is going to be when we have backups. When we talk about bash scripting, you can have a script that runs to purge all the files or go ahead and archive everything or however you want to do it. That's what the cron tab, this is the cron tab, is going to do. So it's going to be an Etsy cron tab. So we're going to go ahead and actually, we're going to do an ls for cron. So we're going to do let's do a vi vim cron tab. That's what this looks like right here. Okay. So let's talk about this for just one second. So we talked about, remember how the cron tab is actually designated. It has minutes, hours, days, months, and weeks. Okay. So, and then the username, and then the command to be executed. So who's going to be executing it, and then what's going to be executed. Okay. So here's actually what it is. It's read only. I'm not going to edit it right now. But again, you can see right here, this notation right here is going to go ahead and be, so we have this right here. Let's go ahead and insert. So this right here is going to go ahead and be the minutes, hours, days, what day of the week, month, day of the week, the username, and then what command do I want to execute. All right, so we're good there. Okay. Now, the other thing you need to look at too is notice it has things such as cron daily, cron hourly, cron monthly. So, and you can also have a weekly one. So basically, these are going to be separate entries for run parts in the following directories. So a lot of the Linux distros have this too. We can actually go ahead and put things into a specific folder, and then it's going to run based off of that. So this is a daily run. This is one called log rotate. Let's look at that and see what that is. VM cron daily dot daily / log rotate. All right, here's what we do. All right, so we've been talking about this a little bit, and we kind of been discussing this. You know, exit value equals this, which we'll understand this a little bit more in the next chapter. If state, this is an if statement right here. If exit value does not equal 0, then user bin logger tac t, whatever that is, logger tac t, log rotate, alert exited abnormally with this exit value right here, finish, and then exit with the exit value. Okay, so that's how the script is being worked. That's what actually log rotate is. On the daily, and then they have an hourly one too. It's called anacron. So we can actually go into hourly. Let's go into the hourly now, and we're doing 0 anacron. Oh, this is a really big file. Holy crap! I'm not going to go through this all the way. Check whether 0 anacron was run today already. So there we go. That's what that says. And then do not run jobs when on battery power. So, excuse me, if you have a UPS hooked up, it'll check to see if you have a UPS hooked up. And then from there, it'll determine if you need to go ahead and run this job or not. Okay, so that's really sweet. So that's how those work. And it executes all those files in the specified directory, just like that. So we talked about the anacron tab, used by anacron, specifies how to execute commands that were missed by the cron D daemon while a system was shut down. Again, remember we talked about that. This specifically says if you are hooked up to power, to a battery backup, do not do this. When you think about that though, why would you not want to run certain commands? Such things as, say, for example, a backup file. Backups can actually, archiving, backing up, and also compressing can take a very long time to complete depending on what kind of thing you're doing. As we learned in the previous chapter, we learned about the different types of backup systems. We have, we have the incremental differential. And depending on which one you're doing, if you're doing a full backup on a battery, think of doing a full backup on a laptop battery that's not plugged in, okay? It may actually lose its charge before it finishes, which then that's a problem. So we don't want also, that's going to eat up cycles and actually make the actual battery burn out quicker. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, you know what, don't run that command until we get power back on, okay? So again, this is how the anacron works. The AT command schedules one or more commands to be executed at one specific time in the future. So we can actually go ahead and do the AT. We can do AT, tac help. So we go ahead and do AT, and then there's the time specifications, AT taxi job. So syntax is at time, where time indicates when you want to execute the command. So at time. After you run the command, you get an AT prompt to enter the desired command and press enter. So let's do that. AT. Let's go ahead and do at 10. Actually, let's see, it's 12, 22, 56. I want you to ping www.cool.com. To finish, we're going to go ahead and hit Control D. All right. Let's see what happens at 10:56. Okay, it's 10:54 right now. Let's see what happens a little bit later. So ATQ lists the current users at jobs. So at this sets their time. So at ATQ, I have one. At this time, the student is going to be running a command at 22:56. Okay. So let's go ahead and create another command. We're going to do at 22:56. We're going to go ahead and ping yahoo.com. Control D. Now I have two jobs. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove one. So let's do at ATQ. And okay. So I'm going to ATRM. I'm going to remove the second one. Okay. Now if I do ATQ again, look, there I go. All right. So I removed the second one. Only one left is the first one. And we're almost about to be at 10:56. We can also use a configuration file to access services. So we can do at.deny allows, just like the cron. So we can actually go ahead and specify who actually gets access to this or not too, just like cron, which is even better for us. Again, you don't want certain people being able to run cron jobs. That is going to be, that should be restricted to only a certain amount of people. So. Let's see, did it run? Oh, it didn't run. Trying to see, get y'all to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and do ATRM1, 3, Q. All right, let's see what happens at 10:58. Let's do time. Oh, that's why. So it's 23:57. Okay, let's go ahead and fix that real quick. AT 23:58 thing. There we go. 4. ATQ. All right, so 23:58. So I'm actually an hour ahead. That's why it didn't pop off. I was like, oh, darn it. Oh, see, it said, I don't even know why I didn't pay attention. See, it says it's going to run it on Tuesday, October 5th. Okay. So we're looking at 23:58 here. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it runs. Okay, so hopefully it'll run and see what happens. Okay, cool. All right, so next up we're going to is going to be scripting, bash, creating and reading bash scripts. Okay, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, and then I'm going to put a more in-depth actual discussion a little bit later, and that'll be for that. There will be a lab for this one, and I really am going to tell you, please do the lab. The lab is going to go ahead and walk through how to create basic shell scripts. And these are going to be very, very helpful in just understanding the shell scripting language. If you choose to go ahead and actually do the advanced class, this would be very helpful moving forward. So we'll go ahead and actually get into this right now. I'm going to clear my screen, just make it all nice and pretty. All right, compile. So there's a couple different languages, but there's two things you need to understand in regards to different programming languages. There's something called a compiled language, and there's actually a scripting language. Compiled languages cannot be executed directly from the source code. And what that means is they must be compiled first. So a lot of times, if any of y'all have taken, sorry, I'm going to raise my desk real quick so I can stand for a little bit. I'm going to sit down a little bit too much. And let me adjust this real quick. There we go. All right. So if you all have taken any type of programming at all, then you know that a compiled language would be things like Java, C, C#, C++. Those are going to be some of the compiling languages. The other types of languages we have are something called scripting languages, and these are interpreted languages. They're interpreted, and they don't have to be compiled. They don't need to have a compiler. So traditionally, these are not compiled at all, and they're easy to learn. Some of them often take less coding to perform a task. So things such as Perl, the more famous Python, and what we're talking about this week, which is going to be bash scripting, okay? So what we're going to talk about is going to go ahead and be this idea of bash scripting in this module. So bash scripting is its simplest level. Batch files consisting of lists of Linux commands. That's basically how to execute something in a certain order. They can also use other program features such as variables, loops, exit statuses, and then also the ability to source code from other files. We can actually bring in other files when we want to. Those are some of the advanced stuff. Again, this is a very basic understanding of scripting. Okay, so you're not going to be expected to do something really, really extreme, and this is not a programming class. But the part of learning Linux is you have to understand there's a scripting language that's embedded in the programming. Just like Microsoft has PowerShell, and they can create batch scripts in PowerShell. So it's a similar fashion, okay? So some of the different advantages about using bash scripting, though, is that it does lack some advanced programming features, such as OOP, or object-oriented programming. So if you hear the term OOP, or from a programmer, you talk about object-oriented. And it's often much slower than executing other languages because each command is normally executed as a separate process. So when we execute a command, so every time we run a command, it's running that command specifically, individually by itself. And then, but honestly though, even with these disadvantages, bash scripting is very popular in the Linux world. So it's actually a very important thing to learn. One thing you have to understand is that bash scripts do end in something called .sh, which means it's a shell script. So .sh actually is an extension giving us a shell script, okay? There is something called Perl scripting, and this is quick to learn too. It is also very flexible and not limited by structure as much as some other languages are. And it's very simple syntax. And it was derived originally from C. And some of the features are very powerful and it is robust with regular expressions. Also, the way you use this mainly is going to be like for data parsing. Web development is very common to have Perl. There's going to be code testing if you're doing GUI programs or admin tools. You can use Perl to do that as well. Python scripting, we talked about that. It's one right now. It's the most common and most popular scripting language right now. It does create enforced structure with rules such as a very rigid indentation scheme. So if you indent improperly, you can actually mess up some of your actual loops and stuff, or your functions if you're calling functions. It does, though, give you the object-oriented features. So you actually can do OOP with Python. It also has a large standard library, so you have a lot of capabilities you can import into this. It is extendable and also can be embedded, which is also really nice. And then the data structures are more diverse than those of main languages. So data structures, If you haven't taken data structures, there's a whole class that you can take called data structures. And it's basically just talking about data structures as a whole. I'm not going to go into that because, again, this is not a programming class. This is a Linux class, so you're just learning how to script. Commonly used for things such as network-based applications, web development, scientific applications, and system tools. A lot of times, I think they can use it to do some type, like I use it at work to go ahead and parse through data and start looking at files and looking at data. So that's what I use it for my end. Some of the basics of bash scripting. Create scripts in a text editor using VI or Emacs, whichever your preferred one is. First line should be this right here, and actually it's going to not just be, it's going to be a pound or hashtag exclamation point bin bash. And what this is called, and this is actually called the shebang, okay? The shebang. So it should look like this. It should look like this. Okay? The shebang. So that is also going to be the actual word of the week. The attendance word of the week is shebang. S-H-E-B-A-N-G. Shebang. The first line should be this. The special sequence calls out the shebang again, and it tells the system to execute. Execute this program, please, as a bash script. Comments are going to be given, issued by a pound. So we go ahead, and if we go into VI, so this is where I'm going to go back to my home directory, and I'm going to go ahead and VI example. Hello world. I can make this, so if I want to make this a script, I can go ahead and I'm going to put this. Okay, so I can do ls tac l. And there's example right there. I'm going to go ahead and actually change example. Remember, it has to have a .sh to be a file. So let's go ahead and move it and rename it. Now it's a file, right? So we have that, and I can go into VI example. So we have the /bin/bash, and we have hello world. I can actually make this a comment, which means a comment's not going to be read by the actual, it's not going to be interpreted by the actual operating system. It's going to skip by it. So I can go ahead and add and notice it actually changes its color too. So that's very important because when you're doing programming, sometimes the color schemes actually do matter, and you can actually help you discern where you made a mistake. So I can actually go ahead and add the hashtag or the pound symbol, and that's going to give you a comment section. The echo command can be used to display information. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and let's say I'm going to go ahead and add a comment. Print out hello world. Okay, that's what this actual thing is going to do. I'm telling the people that read my script are going to see. I'm going to say echo hello world. Okay. So one thing you have to understand is we talked about this 3 modules ago when we talked about files and execution and permissions, right? So let's go ahead and actually to run a script, okay? I'm going to go ahead and do a // because what does the dot signify? Remember, very, very beginning of the year, the semester, the dot signifies the current directory I'm in. The current directory I'm in, right? The current directory I'm in. Oh, and by the way, I want you to go ahead and find this actual script called example.sh. I want you to run it. Oh, permission denied. That is weird. Why do I not have permission? Let's look at this and see. Well, I own the file. It's part of the group student, and I'm student, and I'm in the student group. I can verify that to make sure. Yep, I'm in the student group. I am also the student. And this is my student username. Okay, so what other thing can we not look at? Okay. Think back to 3 modules ago. We're talking about file permissions. All right, we're looking at this. What is it that we need to be able to run something? Well, let's look at this. This looks weird. I know what we're missing. We're missing the execute permission. So remember, we need to give this file execute permission. So how we give this file execute permission? We're going to do change modification. Chmod. Change modification. We're going to go ahead and add the execute permissions. We're going to add this to the user. I just want the user to have it, me. I just want me to have it. And then we're going to go ahead and do example.sh. Now let's see what we got. Now look and see example. Oh, look, even changed the color to .sh. So I can execute it now. Interesting. That's very, very important. So now let's try to do / example. And look, it echoed out hello world to the actual command prompt. That's exactly what the echo command does. And this is how we set up the actual files, okay? So we have other things called the conditional statements. And there's 3 different types. There's the if, there's the while. Actually, there's also for and until. Okay, there's 4. Technically, there's 4 different types. There's the if statement. We can do an if, then if this condition happens, then do this. Else, do this. So let's say, for example, this condition doesn't get actually met. Well, then do this instead. Or we can actually piggy that off. Let's say if condition A is met, then do this. Else, if condition B is met, then do this. Else if condition C is met, we can continue chaining them together. Or you can say, or do this instead. And then you finish off with the fi. So notice that the actual condition is if fi. And then I want you to pay attention here. Notice that the condition, there's a space between the brackets, okay? Not the brackets. The brackets, yes. Sorry, I get the brackets and braces often so confused sometimes. And then also, notice the positioning of the stuff. If brackets, conditions in the bracket, then indent statements. Do this, this, and this, okay? So we can actually do things for conditional expressions. There's a difference between using equals this, or there's an equal sign, or a double equal sign. These are very, very common in most programming languages, but they represent 2 different things. The first thing is equals. Equals, you're going to say equals this, but that's actually not checking. If you're saying that A equals 3, you're not actually checking to see if A equals 3. You're just saying A equals 3. When we do a double equals, that actually stands for equivalent. So if A is double equals or equivalent to 3, then do this. Does that make sense? So we have the equal sign, which actually is not doing anything that's checking the condition at all. So common mistakes include forgetting the then statement when we're doing if statements, the spacing around the square brackets I talked about. There should be space before and after square brackets. And then again, to have it putting double quotes around your variables. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next section. Here are some comparisons you need to do. Equals, true if the values are equal to each other. Not equals, so if they're not equal to each other. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than equal to. So you're going to say if this is greater than, if this is equal to, if this is not equal to, if this is less than equal to, this is less than. Some, like Python uses the actual symbols, but I also believe if they also use the actual verbiage as well. We can also test files in bash scripting. Is true if the file is a directory. So I'm going to test this actual file, and is it a directory? Well, is it? Cool, we can see if it is. We're going to do attack F, true if the file is a regular file. Attack R if it exists and is readable by the user. Is it writable by the user? Is it executable by the user? And then is it less than or equal to the second value? So that's going to be a little bit different, and we're going to talk about that. And that one I'm not going to go into how to use that one. That one's going to be like a special cases. Flow control. We have while loops, we have until, we have cases, and we have the for loops, okay? These are how we can do flow control. And one of the interesting things about flow control is that when we talk about this, like, think about this as like, these are statements that we're going to continue to do this thing until something happens. So we're going to go ahead and while A does not equal 5, do everything in this actual loop, okay? Or for every name in this Excel spreadsheet, do this, okay? Or until the end of file, which is basically until we read the entire file, do this. And then lastly, cases. Cases are a little bit different. Basically, cases are going to go ahead and be if we come to a specific case. So let's say if the case where A is less than 1, do this. If the case is where A is actually blank, do this. And those are going to be some of the ideas. So here we have a while loop. While, echo zip. So they're asking us for a zip code. Echo, enter a 5-digit zip code, and we're going to read it into the actual program. We're going to get the input from the user. Okay. While echo zip. So while we go ahead and we're echoing zip, we're going to go ahead and grep for the numbers 0 through 9 for 5. I'm going to part it to dev null, 2, and 1. This has to do with where we're sending the error messages, okay? So do this. You must enter a valid zip code, 5 digits only. So if they did 0 to 9 for 5 times, let's say, for example, it's not 5, let's say it's 4, let's say it's 3, or maybe it's 6. No, I want 5. And then from there, I want to enter a 5-digit zip code and then read it again. So it's going to go ahead and continue doing this process until you give it a 5-digit zip code. And once you give it, it breaks out of the while loop. And then it says, echo, thank you. Okay. For loops. Enable you to perform an operation on a set of items. So you have a set of items, you can go ahead and do a for loop. This will create, so we have 4 person and Bob, Ted, Sue, Nick, and Fred. Do user add this person. So we talked about, remember we did the user creation? You can create a script to go ahead and do that. So 4 person and Bob, Ted, Sue, Nick, and Fred, do this. So for each person in this group of people, do user add that person. And notice that the dollar, we call this, like we're saying a person, and then we're also saying to call that variable person, we're putting a $sign in front. And then once we get done with the loop, we put done. So we have some breakout commands to immediately exit a loop, and we use these continue the command or to stop the current iteration. So let's say, for example, we don't want something to happen. We want to get everything but this specific thing. We can say, oh, if it meets this condition, just continue. Don't ignore it, right? We can also do an exit, like, oh, if you hit this, exit right away. And we have the cases. So useful for performing multiple conditional checks. So let's say, for example, syntax where CMD represents a bash command. So we have the case, variable in, and then we state the condition. So we have case. Let's say the variable name is Bob, okay? So case name in Ted. Say it's Ted. Then echo it is Ted. Let's say it's Bob. Next case, let's say the actual name is Bob. Then echo it is Bob. And then from there, if it's anything else than Ted and Bob, which is the asterisk, remember that's a wild card, echo I have no idea who you are. And exit the case with actually putting case backwards. Okay. We can actually get user action by using the read function, the read ability, so we can read in a specific statement using read. So read the answer, and then we actually go ahead and say case the answer in Y-E-S-P, echo, you said yes. If it said N or N-O or nope, then exit, you said no. If it's anything else, then say bad response. So user action, again, you can go ahead and do read tag P to issue a prompt to the user. So instead of actually going and saying echo this and then read, you can do read tag P and say, hey, read in something, and then while you're reading, I want you to go ahead and tell the user, hey, enter your name. So let's just do that right now. I can just type it in read tag P, enter your name, and name. See? So I'm going to go ahead and get out of that one. I'm going to make this a little bit better, because that's like right there. Enter your name. So if I go ahead and actually see what name is, I can do echo name. Echo name is James Devno. I read in because that's a command, read. So I can read in on the actual script, and then I entered my name, James Devno, and then I said, hey, echo the variable, print it out to me. What is the variable? The variable of name is James Devno. Okay. So we can do command substitution. So let's say, for example, I can say today's date. I can say today equals $. And this is very helpful because when we talk about like the actual assignment, it requires you to use ping. Okay, ping. So I can go ahead and then use echo. I can do today. Okay. So I did $, today variable for date, okay? So we can do that. If you want to go ahead and see more information, you can go do man bash. Very, very lengthy man page. Very lengthy man page. Look at this. Like you want to learn, understand everything that bash can do. This is where it's at. You can read all this and get through it. Kudos on you. But yeah, so that's what you can do there. Or you can go to tldp.org. It contains documents called Advanced Bash Scripting Guide, and that'll help with you too. All right, so we've done this right here. I'm going to go ahead and cut it short about this module here, and then I'm going to go ahead and please go ahead and look forward to the next one, where I'm actually going to dive into Bash scripting as a whole. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth. We'll talk about the assignment. We'll talk about pseudocode. And we'll be a little more succinct on what we're going to be, what I'm looking for in regard to that, and what you can do to make your program better than just the simple stuff. But yeah, so that's just what we're going to talk about there. Other than that, if you have any questions, make sure you go ahead and understand that the actual word for the week is shebang. That's going to be for week number 8. And if you have any questions, please let me know and send me an email. If not, I will go ahead and look forward to your next actual interaction with the next video. Y'all have a great rest of your day.